الله وبركاته. We're going to take this particular time out, inshallah ta'ala, to present the trophy, the Imam Jamil Riyadh trophy, for those who won the tournament. Now we have, I think, 2 representatives here. Is that correct? Okay. Inshallah, it was Orlando in the house that took it this year. So inshallah, give a big takbir for Orlando. I think they stacked the deck a little bit. I think so. But you know, we gotta give it to him. This guy plays professional ball. Come on. Give me a couple of words.
Thank you so much for all the brothers who coordinated this event, including Ishra and the rest of the board, the Imam, alhamdulillah, the table here, mashallah, tabarakallah. Thank you for setting up an amazing event. It was very competitive, it was wild, but we had a good time. We're all brothers at the end of the day. And we got Philly in the house. You know, I had to import some players in order to get to take on the home team over here from Apopka, right? From Apopka? Yeah, so Orlando and Apopka, crazy rivals, but alhamdulillah, it was a good game, fought well, alhamdulillah, and thank you all that contributed to an amazing event.
Excuse me, my voice is going, so it's still a little deep. No, but shout out to the team we faced when it was over. I ain't going who. Alhamdulillah, you know. Thank the brothers for inviting us out here. Maybe enjoying us. It's a lovely evening. And shout out to them. They made it a great game. It's competitive. Play hard. You know,
along with us all. You know, he got the nickname Shake Lowry. Because, you know, he played like Lowry. Lowry's playing tonight, too.
He said that because I'm small.
Hey, one more question. Can we get a mashallah? Mashallah. Can we get a mashallah? Mashallah.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Okay, brothers and sisters, inshallah, we're going to bring up our beloved brother. He's going to do some funny stuff for you. He's going to make you laugh. He's going to make you giggle. Let's put a big takbir together for our brother Umar Reagan. Takbir! 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 Love you more, Imam. Assalamu alaikum. Okay, yeah. This feels interesting. I just want to say that outright. Alhamdulillah. I'm excited because I'm honestly happy to be here, but I got to look around the room to make sure that Muslims are smiling, because I don't know if y'all been paying attention. It's like something going on that people are coming up attacking comedians on stage. This is starting to get contagious. Yeah. So I just want to say, brothers, if I don't say something that you like, just say astaghfirullah or something. Don't come up here, putting your hands on me. It's not a good feeling. But I'm also I want to check and make sure brothers do have a smile. Brothers, do you have a smile? I know what happened to us. We're not used to this. We're not used to smiling or laughing in public when there's a lot of witnesses. I don't know what it was about some of my uncle brothers and my elder brothers, but they had to be serious all the time. Like, shut up. All the time. And so then now what has happened is over time, They just didn't laugh out in public. And the laugh has been trapped inside of their bodies for so long that when it come out, it scares them and all of us. Oh, you know. And so, I find that some of my dear beloved uncles out here, you know, you be holding on to your laugh like you're holding on to your wudu. It'd be one of those last rakat hold on. Like you don't want to start salat all over. You know, you just be moving. Understand? I know. It's like you gotta just try to let it out. The sheikh was up here, they was talking about the balance. You know, just gotta have a balance. It's okay. It's okay. Just, you know, let it on out. Oh man. I was learning a lot too from these sheikhs, man. Did you guys learn something? I know, there was a couple of sisters in there. Amen. I'm just talking about. I heard the sister. That's right. Specifically when he was talking about paying the bills. They always like that part. I was paying attention to different things. You know what threw me off just a little bit? I was surprised about the. I don't understand what in the world. What are these? So I wasn't prepared. I was like, oh, when the sheikh came in, Sheikh Nasruddin, he came in. I was like, whoa, this is. But did y'all pay attention to something? When he opened up his phone, he swung his left leg. Did y'all see that? I was like, oh, this is a thing. Every time he hooked up his phone, what's going on with this? And then the other sheikh, Allah bless him too. I mean, Imam Ismail, he had another thing about this chair. He had this. He had this thing going on. I was like, man, I want to know about the chair. When I get up there, I'm gonna sit in the chair and see what happens to me. But you know, them some different black men that was up here. You know what I mean? Because did you hear the Arabic? MashaAllah. Boy, that Arabic was coming out like, it was just flawless. I was like, man, I want to do that. The Prophet saw something, I'm like, yes. It just come out and hit different. The brothers got the bass in the voice, because you could tell that he was like from the Abu Dhar al-Ghifari tribe. That Imam Ismail, he had a little gangster with him. Like I through the throat, you know what I mean? Alhamdulillah. I just saw the swag. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. I saw it. I was like, man, that Imam right there. He one of them Imams where you be like, no, okay. You know, Alhamdulillah. You be like, I'll just make my 2 rakats. I wish I knew more about them, because I feel like they could be friends. But alhamdulillah, I don't see Imam Isa. As I was going to ask him a couple of questions, because you guys been around him a lot longer. I was going to ask him, when did the V switch from the front to the side? I'm sorry. I know. I gotta ask. I wanted to know. I was like, man, Imam Isa, who getting married? I said, Imam Isa came in, buy it out. I said, Imam Isa, what? Oh, bless you, man. You looking good. I said, man, what is going on up in here? And then I paid attention to the detail. I was like, oh, something that's different. Because Imam Isa, you know, I grew up, Imam Isa always had that iron wrinkle-free turban. since I was little, I was like, man, like, so my father, you see my father's turban? Allah yakhana. I love y'all. Listen, this guy, he'd take his turban off and throw his turban and be in the other room. And we would watch him he would put it on, you know, in his own way, the way he would put it on. But when I saw Imam Isa, he was like, look at that turban. That turban was like, it was so smooth. Like a road had been asphalt. Like the steam press was. I said, man. And then he had the little tail in the back. Yeah. And I saw now today, when Imam Isa, he came in, and the V would always be like right here. But today, that V is right over here. I want to know, is it a mistake or if that's intentional? Like, it's a new style. It's a new day. The new Darul Islam movie. This is what we gonna do. I know Imam Isa has his security team here. I'm just asking questions. I don't want no trouble. I just want to know. I think it looks nice. But I was just wondering, in my mind, I saw it. And these things be happening to me in my mind. When I saw it, I was like, I wonder if he was like, man, I thought it was right here. You know what he saw, right? Oh, boy. Yeah. I love him. I'm really I'm happy to be up in here because even though it looked like we small, we know we strong. Y'all know that? I mean, really, subhanAllah, we are really, everybody might not have came to Florida, but they out there. They are out there, man. There's so many of us. We grew up in this community, man. These guys, man, alhamdulillah, good friends. And I don't know if y'all know, but when I was 16 years old, I worked in Imam Jamil's store. And let me just say, we had different kind of store hours. Like, Imam would come in here and hey, man, assalamualaikum. Alhamdulillah, need anything? I'd be like, no, okay. He gave me the keys, and he said, you open the store at 9 o'clock, and you close the store at Maghrib. What time is Maghrib? When the sun sets. Now here's the problem. Sometimes, as a 16-year-old, I felt trapped. Because sometimes, y'all know them long days when Maghrib don't come in until 9 o'clock. So from 9 to 9, I'm just in the store, looking at everybody play. They had a park right across the street. If you've ever been to Atlanta, the store is here, the court is right there. You can jump almost to the park. Not me. I was working that store from 9 to Maghrib. I was wondering, can we get an usher in here or something? Every now and then, can I lure this thing? I would start using salat at times as can we lure this? Are we Maghribing right now? I would put the ing on Arabic. Are we Maghribing? Can we Maghrib at 6:22? Oh man, I learned a lot. Alhamdulillah, I learned a lot. These are. Sound like an imam. You know how you always have to straighten up? Sound like an imam. Alhamdulillah. Imam. Because we were in here, we don't want no, I like to call it homie lumi. This is this thing that I've been working on. Homie lumi, it's inspired by Waylun likulli humazatin lumazah, right? Backbiting and slander. So when I hear gossip, I'll be like, uh-oh, Humi Lumi coming. I gotta go. I can't mess with the Humi Lumi. So Imam, see, I got one star full of right there. Man, how many hasanat I'm gonna be on? If all of y'all make dua for me, I may make it home safe. I mean, Imam, you wasn't here means that your back was turned. No, listen, it was a question. I was asking the question, and everybody thought it was funny. But I was just wondering, when did you decide to change the V from right here in the middle to over here on the side? MashaAllah. I had to say it because I don't want everybody else to come and tell it wrong. You know who was coming for you, Imam? I'm not coming for the Imam. I just want to know. Oh. Y'all can tell I got issues. I know, boy, Allah have mercy on all of us. You know what? Okay, I got more questions. Can I ask questions? I've been studying hadith, right? And alhamdulillah, I've been paying attention to. I've been like, man, you mean that hadith was daif too? I did not know that. All right, so I'm asking questions. I got issues, right? I'm a little older and I feel like, is this a safe space? Okay. So when I was little, when I would get in trouble, I would get a whooping. And it would hurt, right? Physical whooping, right? I know that's outdated today. The sisters out here, they feel really uncomfortable with this conversation. But we already know you may have gotten beaten too. Yeah, I mean. Min Wayne? Let's see, Habibi. Min Wayne? Yes. من سوريا ما شاء الله تكلم عربي نعم. That's all I got. That's all. But did you hear my ayn though? Did you hear my ayn? That's I always be cheating. Every time I cheat, they go, MashaAllah. I put like tajweed on the MashaAllah, and then I'm like, Yani. That's how I cheat. When I'm over in Saudi, I do that. I get away with it all the time. I even heard a couple of Yanis. I was like, oh yeah, they've been over there. They studied either in Egypt or Saudi. You don't hear people, black people, Saudi. When you hear somebody that's been there, Saudi. Yeah, it's a real thing. Sisters, wait. Yes. Oh, did you hear that? Philistine. Proper tajweed. A Philistine. How y'all feel being around all these black people? I just want you to know you were surrounded by them. I'm just playing. Look, uh-oh. Maybe. You see this? We got your back. We don't play that. Look, she was already ready to retie her hijab. We do not play that around up in here. If he's coming for you, he is coming for all of us. Give me a hijab pen. I got to make this a little bit tighter. See, you're among family. So this hadith, I got whooping. And you know what they would tell me? I was young, they would say that when you get a whooping, this is a hadith, that when you get a whooping, Shaitan is in the corner laughing at you. Now, me and my brothers and sisters may have been the only ones heard that hadith. Did anybody else heard that hadith? When you heard it, I'm not the only one. You know what I did? I was so fed up with Shaitan. One day I got hit I was like, Shaitan has got to get his. Is it burnt? I ran to the corner. And I'm swinging. I'm in the middle, I'm like, in my mind, I'm beating Shaitan. And then in the middle of me swinging, beating Shaitan, I had a thought. I was like, wait, what if he's not in this corner? So I ran to another corner. It didn't make sense. And I started looking for the isnad of this hadith. I couldn't find it. Somebody was lying to me. Also, I don't know. I haven't been able to find. You gotta keep studying. There's something. Look, don't get in trouble, okay? If they're using the hadiths on you, it's for a good reason. Some hadiths are strong. You gotta find the right ones. But some of them, they was getting me. They were telling me, I don't know, have y'all ever, because I also learned this Arabic word, this hadith, this hadith. But it's an Arabic word means story or narrative. So I was looking for this, they told me another hadith. And I got a whooping, look, I got a whooping for not folding the prayer up. Somebody else. I know, don't you know, if you don't fold that prayer up, Shaitan is going to pray on it. I'm crying, but I'm like, shouldn't he pray too? Like, don't he need to make sujood? I'm thinking I was standing in front of the prayer rug and like, look, Allah is doing, make him stop. I thought the waswas was all Shaitan. Every time I was getting in trouble, I just blamed Shaitan. I'm like, I'm standing in front of him. He bowing to the son of Adam. Does it count? Please, Allah, please. Oh, man. I used to like to watch TV. Okay, I'm not going to tell you that. I know. It's funny. Make dua for me. Yes. I just be wondering, did anybody else go through some of the things that I went through in my childhood? I'm still studying, though. I want to get better and stronger. Alhamdulillah. Like, even my name is a problem. Do you know this? Like, my name, I'm blaming this on the Egyptians. Or should I say Egypt, right? Egypt. I'm blaming this on the Egyptians. So my mother converted to Islam. I was 5 years old. She married Imam Luqman as his second wife. I like to say that because everybody say polygamy and they be like, all of the horror stories come out. But I'm a product of a healthy polygamous relationship because I didn't have a father. So my mother, this guy, he disappeared. And so, alhamdulillah, when she converted to Islam, then this man, he married my mom. I'm 5 years old. He adopted me and my two older sisters as his own. And he already had a wife and 4 kids. Every time I say, I just wanted to look at the sisters. So, I'm not promoting, I'm just sharing. Said it's a safe space, right? So I'm grateful. I grew up, I had a father. He taught me Quran, taught me Salah, everything, alhamdulillah. Even everything that I'm doing, alhamdulillah, Allah yarhamu, he taught me. So may Allah keep blessing him and everything I do, give him reward and ajr. Everything I do good. Everything I do bad. Oh man, don't put it on the man. Alhamdulillah. So my name, right, for the longest, we just said my name was Omar. We did the Arabic, because it was always Omar. Like, my grandfather named me Omar because his favorite actor was Omar Sharif from Lawrence of Arabia. That was his favorite actor. So when I'm born, he said, we're gonna call him Omar. Oh, right? So they called me Omar. But my mother's previous married name was Regan. And the guy was a bad guy. But she didn't want her kids to have different last names. So I ended up becoming a Regan by default. But since I was 5, I never knew. what my name was because everybody, all the Muslims call me Omar. Omar, 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 Omar. Today, I had to reintroduce myself to myself. Like, your name is Omar Regan. Why? It's because I had to go to work and use my ID. And then people started calling me Omar Regan, which they all said the same thing. Reagan, Reagan. Like everybody got the same joke. Are you Ronald Reagan's son? Ha, 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 ha. Even Dave Chappelle, when I was introduced to Dave Chappelle, he's like, Omar Reagan. That's the first time I heard a Sahaba and a Republican in the same name. Yeah. And then even when I was on the Hajj, like, because you got to have my passport, right? My passport got my legal name on it, right? Even if you go home to Detroit, everybody still be calling me, hey, Omar, right, Omar. I was in a rap group with my brother. So because of Ooh, my rap name was Ooh. Not anymore. Oh. Hello. But I'm on the Hajj, and on the Hajj, everybody else, I just felt like they was more Muslim than me, just from their name. They be calling people's name Ali Abdul Salam. Here, even their passport, Osama. I don't want to say Ibn Zayd. Ibn Karim. One dude's name was Muhammad Ibn Muhammad. I was like, man. And then he would say, Omar Regan. Regan? And the Arabs would say, Regan. 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 And then it would come to me, يعني ما معنى في اللغة يعني الإنجليز الأسماء ريغان ماذا اسم That is his name. What is this name? I was like, I don't know. Right? So I started researching. I wanted to know what Regan means because everybody's last name meant something, right? And so I'm like, I got to find out what Regan means. Here's what I found out. These Egyptians, their genes are good. Good. If you ever been to Egypt, this is class, right? All of their genes, we would be like, hey, are you guys going to Hajj? They would be like, are you going to Hajj? Hajj. Even my friend, Raif, I have a friend named Raif, his last name is Hajjaj, the way we would read it in Arabic. He pronounces Hagag. So I was like, yo, this is amazing. The Egyptians messed up my name because I couldn't find what Regan meant. But you know what I found out? Richard. يعني Richard. Man, in English means royal. Oh, am I feeling myself? Omar Royal. Omar Richard. MashaAllah. Yeah, so when y'all see me, hey, Omar Richard, I'll be like, hey, well. Y'all don't care. Just, I'm gonna call him Regan, I'm gonna call him Regan. That's how y'all act. Like, I'm trying to share, this is, okay. Yeah. Oh, the brother didn't cut the mic. What happened, man? Was it the Imam jokes? All right, let me get into some more trouble. Let me ask this question. We was talking about hadith and everything, right? This is one I'm a little scared about, right? Listen, Mom, make dua for me. I'm a little scared about this. I know that the Prophet ﷺ, it's reported that the Prophet ﷺ put henna in his beard. Yes, right? This is it. I know this, but I wanted to ask the question, what is the purpose of putting henna in the beard? Yeah? Anybody else? To hide the grays, right? To cover the gray. So what I'm asking is black henna halal? And is there a such thing as black henna? Yes. Oh, everybody got religiously scared. The sister in the car was like, oops. It is. It's, huh? Is it lawful? I'm saying it because I'm on that black henna, baby. I'll be on the black henna tip, like, yeah, mashallah. But then I'll be like, am I wrong? Yes? Yes? I like this question. I mean, I like this answer. This is. Okay, she's a sheikha. Sheikha Nora. Right? Okay. What if? Then what is the? So then that means that it's okay to wear the red and it doesn't make me look younger.
Yeah, my grandfather wears it.
But does it make him look younger? Is your grandfather here? Wait, your grandfather is young. I saw him yesterday, running up and down the court. Let's go. I was waiting on your grandfather. I saw him. He's like, gotta get back down there. I was waiting on your grandfather to be like, tap. And he was like, and he would do it. At a moment, your grandfather was standing on the other side of the court. Yeah, that's a foul. That's a foul. And he'd come on the other side of the court. Man, now I gotta tell him what I said. Okay. I was like, that young man right there. Is your father married? No, mashallah, we need Imam. Imam, you got the right attire on today. Let's go live and do a bidding auction for the Sheikh. Sheikh is healthy, Sheikh is ready. I saw him in action. Okay. Do I make how many astaghfirullah is that? I know. SubhanAllah. Somebody gonna have to make a donation for me. Get me out of trouble. Oh man. You know what's so interesting? Like growing up Black and Muslim, like we have our own little flavors. You know what I mean? Like in the masjids, like we have our own characters too. Like we used to have to stop brothers from calling the adhan because some brothers used to want to be singers. Some brothers used to want to be singers. We used to have to stop them from calling the adhan and leading the prayer. Some brothers, like, because they would, I think, let me say this, I think they would imagine that if they was leading the prayer, they was the lead singer. And then the group, the backup would be like, honey, they'd be waiting on that one part of the Fatiha to just lose it. Well, that's, we'd be like, you can't lead the prayer no more. Because you can just tell. You're like, this is not okay. And they be doing that, you can't sing it like that. You gotta say it. Change your intentions. What is your intention? We wanted to know. What is your intentions for this? And you would see him, I'm younger, but we would be looking at him. Because you can't see their face normally. Normally you can't see their face. He's like, this ain't it, man. I don't know, we not coming to prayer with you. Honestly, the first time I saw, it was actually in the West End Masjid in Atlanta. The West End Masjid in Atlanta. Man, let me tell you something. Listen, it's a group called the Dawa Ensemble. Man, his adhan was on point though. But if you had never heard it before, you would be like, oh, wow. And he would smile. I'll live somewhere. You see that smile? It would come out. I'll live somewhere. He'd be like, man. I wanted to ask him. He'd be like, isn't it a beautiful thing? Come on, let me say it like he would say it. Oh, it's a beautiful thing. Call people to prayer. Call people to success. And that's Brother Jamal. Oh, I wish they was here, boy. Imam Nadim and them. From Chicago to Beach. So that you won't be offended. Y'all know that? Yeah. They had, y'all know who got the Darul Ensemble album? Diamonds and pearls. That's all we could listen to back then. Everything else was haram. We couldn't listen to anything else. We watched kung fu movies because they would have beards and thugs on. Like, I mean, for a long time, I thought they was Muslim. You'd be like, look at the sheikh. You'd be like, that sheikh, man, that sheikh, he's doing the drunken piss. But you know, I never met anybody with a voiceover. I never met anybody that talked like them dubbed, like them voiceovers in kung fu movies back in the day. Didn't they have the most interesting voices? And don't cheese here, and don't pause not too far behind. You see, like, man. They always would come in like, your skills worthy of the general. So if you want to fight, fight with me. 1-to-1. Man-to-man. And y'all seen Bruce Lee movies? Have you ever met anybody that talked like the dude in the Return of the Dragon? He's like, you don't know a Chinese stereotype? Come here, let me show you. Oh, never met nobody like that. That's all we could do, man. That's all we could do growing up because everything else was haram. Fun was haram. Abu would see us, if you were smiling, what you laughing about? Right? You better be thinking about the akhirah. True. Man, it's true. It's true. You looking like, man. It would be like, you couldn't even complain. Like, it was later that it was a hadith, authentic hadith to show about how long the brother was leading the prayer. Like, I was like, man, I wish I would have knew about this hadith. I gotta keep studying. Because brothers would just get up there. I don't know, that always made them feel special for some reason. You could just tell by the body language, something always. Stove. Stuck in the fucking. And they do this bend. I don't know what the bend is. It's the bend and the COVID cough, like before COVID. And then they would look. And then, subhanAllah, it got extra, right? It got extra as time went on. Brothers, they found out about the Omar ibn al-Khattab used to go from rank to rank. Oh, and they just abused that. Come on, brother. Brother, come on, brother. Let me go on this one. All right. All our sisters. Never cared about the sisters. Sisters. Find out. First of all, the sisters was behind the purdah. Did y'all have the word purdah? It's an English word, I think. And nobody else used it. Call from behind the purdah. We used to do that all the time. I went to the purdah. Don't get your homie. Oh, where's she at? I'm calling from behind the purdah. She never came. They didn't care. Oh, the purdah was usually a blanket. That was separating the big room. Allah bless us. We were on the job training. We was learning. Oh, but he would come in. Stove. And then he would pray the longest prayer. Like we would be in prayer, just in prayer. And it was awesome. Like you couldn't hear nothing. You know when you start doing this, everybody start like, is he all right? Like, is there a ruku? Is there a ruku in this prayer? We used to all be like, uh-oh, there he go. No, don't let him lead the prayer. Come on, brother, you got to lead the prayer before he come up there. He would always jump up. So, Brother Slam, we'd be like, I'm sick of him. It's true. When I was younger too, I was scarred. I got scarred again because you know how alhamdulillah we was studying Quran. Y'all study Quran, yes? Study Quran. But when younger, like 12 or 13, they used to tell us, man, 15 years old, you might have to lead the army. Man, 15 years old, you become a man. You got to lead the army. Oh, shoot. You might be the author of Osama ibn Zayd. Right? So, one time, they had to make me lead the prayer. And I go up there, and I'm nervous. I'm nervous leading the prayer. And I'm saying Surah Al-Teen. We know Surah Al-Teen, yes? So you know how Surah Al-Teen, it reminds you of Surah Al-Asr, and Surah Al-Asr reminds you of Surah Al-Teen, right? What's next? See, that's what I said. I said, and that's not Surah Al-Teen. The brother in the front row, I could feel like I saw his face. He's just yelling, follow who? And I was like, whoa. I tried to say it over. Follow who? I didn't know what to do. I was like, oh. He's still yelling, follow who? Allah Akbar. Only safe place I could go was Ruku. Allah Akbar. All I was doing, I didn't even say Subhana Rabbiyal Azim in Ruku. I was like, I'll never do this again. I'll never do it again. Never do it again. I was wondering why he couldn't just be like, hello. Like, just help me out. Hello. But he was like, his face, hello. You know, to this day, I'm still scared to recite Surah Al-Teen in Salah. To the day, every time I flash back, like, oh, what? I'm not saying what team. I'm not saying what team was they too. I'm not saying what team was they too. I used to get, I don't know what it was about me, but to be honest, like I get popped upside the head a lot, right? That's how I had to learn this Quran. Like my father had a chair. It wasn't as elegant as this chair, but he would have a chair and he would make me sit under him. And in order to, I didn't know the tajweed rules. It's a true story. Illa. When it's the shadda, so you got to put the emphasis. Illa. So I was like, man, illa. I can't remember it when you keep hitting me. Illa. I'm all frazzled. Illa. Oh man. And then I was like, man, I want to learn from somebody else. But here's what happened. I go on this brother, he hit me with another one of those hadiths, right? I'm telling you, he hit me with a hadith, he said, if you're studying this, if you make a mistake, this is what he said, if you make a mistake with this Quran, Allah will punish you. I was like, oh, he scared me. It wasn't until later that I realized that the other hadith said, I don't know which one he had, but if you're making a mistake, you get double reward. Like, I was like, man, he scared the life out of me. So I broke the rules because I got scared that I was going to get punished by Allah about this Quran, and I believe that would be like the most biggest punishment in the world. I'm young. So I started saying, but I don't know all of these tajweed. So I was like, what if I could speak English and tajweed? If I speak English and tajweed, I can learn the rules first, and then I can study the Quran, and I won't get punished by Allah. So I'm walking around, how are you doing? I'm over here, we need, listen, write this down. This is Hunna, nasal pronunciation. We need, this is Alqala, vibration. More money. Now I'm like, I'm gonna get all of my tajweed rules down, and then I'm gonna go with my autograph Quran. It's gonna be amazing. So I'm doing this. Where are you going? But here's what I realized. I realized that, man, just with the tajweed alone, nobody could be upset. It's like the tajweed has a rhythm. And I was like, I wish people, if we could speak English tajweed as a language, they'd be like, would you speak English tajweed? That's all I speak, English tajweed. I'm like, what? Talk to me. I am fine. How are you? You're like, whoa, you got to speak English tajweed back to me, right? I was thinking this, so I was telling my sister, I was like, look, my sister, because, you know, if she was already married, I was like, look, if your husband comes home from a long day, and he comes in there, where's my food? Now, if you were out, you might be like, yeah, you might say that. No, it's him. No. If you were like, you know, wait a minute, Abdullah. I know, I've seen it happen. Hold on, be my sister with the red hijab and this shit. Hold on, Abdullah. I know you ain't coming up in here like that. Instead of doing any of that, just use your English tajweed. It controls you. Your food. Hit the phone for that. In nasal pronunciation. Wouldn't it? On table, habibi. And then he's gonna be like, mashallah. Oh. Yeah. Now, alhamdulillah, I'm grateful. My Quran's been getting better. I'm still working on it. So yeah, I got issues. I go against the grain. But things happen to me. I feel like, do y'all know about the Sahaba Nu'man ibn Amr? Yeah, he was a prankster, like this dude. I'll be like, yeah, man, he fought in the Battle of Uhud and the Battle of Badr. Y'all know about him? Write that down. Nu'man ibn Amr. Yeah, mashallah. That's my guy. Because every time they be like, astaghfirullah. When Muhammad comes with those 2,000 astaghfirullah, I'll be like, what about Nu'man? Oh boy. I done went way over my time, but I'm having too much fun with all of my confessions. Like, I like to, because we have two of our families with us. Alhamdulillah. I know, man. Allah has written it. So let me tell you, I don't know, right? Y'all don't spend too much time in black mosques. You do, Sister? You got a little swag now? When you come in there, you know, you have to switch it up, and you can't hit the irons all the way. You'll be like, Assalamu alaikum, you know what I mean? You know, you show it, Assalamu alaikum, everybody feel like you're trying to be more Muslim than you ever hung with somebody that was like extra Muslim? You know what I mean? Plus, when I was growing up, all the brothers used to have Assalamu alaikum to the back cab. I don't know what that is. Yeah, Assalamu to the back cab. Yeah. You still see this in Philadelphia. I'm sorry, 215. The sisters be like, Slally. Ain't no meaning there. Slally. And then they be like this, Alhamdulillah. We got our own thing going on, man. We like, woo. But I mean, I got my Arab family. I thought that I was gonna stick out like a sore thumb when I went to Saudi, right? I was like, yo, man, all of the Arabs, some of the Arabs, which they didn't like black people. Yeah, I know, some of them didn't, not you guys. I know, but some of them, have you heard about that? She was like, mashallah. I like when you hear, mashallah. Like, so I got nervous. I was like, ooh, when I go to Saudi, I'm gonna stick out like a sore thumb, like this gonna be messed up. And when I got onto the plane and then I went into the community and I saw this black guy, and I was like, yo, he looked like he was from my neighborhood too, in Detroit. I was like, yo, that's Willie. Willie, you took Shahada? And he was like, I said, I was like, oh! Like, Allah made Saudis in black too? I wanted to touch his face. Like, I had no idea. I don't. What? This was a black man, but he was straight out. He was black. And so I was like, wow. And then I was, it's all in our minds sometimes. When I went there, like, it's a different culture. We got to be open to learn different cultures because you know how we are as brothers. We just talk the camaraderie. So when we hug each other extra tight. Don't get no idea. Just hug you because I love you. For the sake of Allah. Which, by the way, I got another confession to make. Remind me about that phrase, for the sake of Allah, when I finish this point. I want to confess something. Well, I'm in Saudi, right? I'm in Saudi. And that's our culture. I'm used to our culture. And when the sheikh, I saw him, he saw me. I mean, like, we locked eyes. I was like, is he looking at me? But he was looking at me. He had all white on. It was crisp white. And he started coming to me and approaching me. And I was like, ooh, how do you know? Like, it was cool. And then he was like, Assalamu alaikum, with that extra ayn. Assalamu alaikum. And he went right in for the hug. And then what caught me off guard, he hit me with the kiss. He was like, mwah. I was like, oh. I wasn't ready. He just kissed me. I had never been kissed by a man before. He kissed me, and he was a little shorter than me, so he kissed me on my neck. I was like, I'm shaking. Man, I don't even know your name. I'm looking at the shape. He had all of this nur on his face, and so I was like, wow, okay. I was like, oh, man. And then I was like, well, I guess I'm going to be okay over here. Alhamdulillah, man, I'm welcome. And then I looked over, and the sheikh was kissing everybody. So some people got 3 kisses. I got jealous. Like, sheikh, you owe me too. But then I was like, but kiss her on the cheek. Don't kiss it on my neck. All right? And it was like opening up to a different culture because, like, black man out of water. I hadn't been nowhere. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. And also, like, I had never seen a man walk holding another man's hand before. But I found out the Arab culture, is very romantic. It's so cool. Like, you just, mashallah, just walk holding hands. So while I was admiring that, I was like, wow, that's different, right? That same sheikh who kissed me, true story, I was faced this way. I didn't see him coming. Like, he crept up on me like a ninja. And he just politely just grabbed my hand. But in my mind, I tensed up. Like, I wasn't ready. I was like, oh. But he had so much nur on his face, I knew I was me tripping. So I was stuck like this. But the biggest problem was his fingers interlocked with my fingers. I was like, and he was okay with that. And he was like, no. And I was like, oh. So I started walking with him. And I was like, okay, shit. I'm going to walk holding your hand. But we're not going to swing. This is too much. And I promise you, here was it was my thing. I was like, if the homies could see me now, it'd be a misunderstanding. Okay. All right, it's time to end this. Where this is the time where this is the intervention, where you guys try to come do a dhikr circle for me. Do a dhikr circle for me. I don't know if I did too bad. I see people blocking the door. Muhammad is blocking the door right there. Like, yeah, I heard what you said about man D. You want to know when the decision came? I'll tell you. Well, I tell y'all to remind you. I told you to remind me about, for the sake of Allah, like, I've been finding out people are using that. I found this hadith. I'm sorry. I found this hadith where it says, the Prophet ﷺ said, if you love someone, you should tell them that you love them. Y'all know this hadith, right? But in the hadith, I did not see the phrase, for the sake of Allah. It was written in another story that the best for to love is for the sake of Allah. So I start questioning people. That's it. Because they always did it like I would be making jokes and stuff, and they always be like, boy, I love you though, for the sake of Allah. But it always felt like, I don't really love you, but I gotta tolerate you for the sake of Allah. But me and you, nah. I be like, well, you gonna call me? Nope. Oh, you don't love me then. I felt like I had to do the Chris Tucker voice. Now you love me? Don't lie to nobody. Don't lie to me. You put the Prophet something in it, don't say nothing. I see you at the margin of your hands. I can do this. Otherwise, man, you don't love me, man. Tell me you don't love me. But if you love me, then let's go play together, man. Play together, we stay together. Oh, okay. I know, people are looking at me. Okay. Imam. I know Imam told me to go. Listen, Imam Isa was like, yeah, Umar, so you know what, Umar? I like paying attention to the cadence. You know what, Imam? I think, man, you can go for a show. You know what I mean? He got that, because he got that New York swag. But when he started talking, he'd be like at a volume 4, and it comes from the diaphragm. I think you could go for like 2 hours. I was like, all right, Imam. I just knew it was an idea. But he didn't really want me to do 2 hours. No, you won't do this thing. No, I mean, you won't do this thing. You know what I mean? I'll be loving bringing you out. It work. Something for the family. Yeah, I'll be like, man, he got that. I'd be like, man, Imam, like, I'd be wanting to ask him, how many wives you got, man? I'm sorry to say that a lot. How many loves so I'll meet you at the bus. But it's really him. It's just him. He just be chilling. He always been chilling like his walk. Look, and when I was young, Imam Isa, he always wore the black brocade army military boot with the fatigue pants. And he had the top to match it too. Be like, whoa! And there was that iron press wrinkle-free turban. When Imam Isa came, and look, when Imam Isa came, oh, he would have like the squad with him too. All of them brothers. That's the New York one. The New York one, you'd be like, there they go. There they go. They mean business. They was like, the New York crew was the ones, they was so inspiring, man. Like, and I found out through my history that these was the first ones of the Darul Islam movement. Like, they were the first, they like, you talking about early 1919. Shout check Darul, Faisal, all of them guys, they come from there. Really strong. Brothers had swag. Brothers like this brother right here. Brother got the mashallah chest. When you go to Juma, boy, you know the brothers look at the Juma different than the sisters would go to Juma. Brothers go to Juma. Inshallah, that's gonna get them right here. Mashallah. Brothers put that. Where's my brother at? That's on post right now. He was with them. Yeah, Sheikh Assad. That brother Assad. Brother Assad, he still got that swag walk. All you gotta do is pay attention. He got it. Slow like me, man. Slow like me, man. Man, if any brother would get out of line immediately, take notes up. Take notes up. One of the biggest inspirations, I'm gonna get off. One of the biggest inspirations is this true story, okay? It's history though, okay? Don't judge us today. When one of the dudes I was in Atlanta, right? And one of the dudes was being disrespectful. And one of the Muslim brothers had already warned him 3 times. You only get 3 warnings out. Pretty soon. It be like, it's a different set of rules. Pretty soon, he got 3 warnings, man. And then, boom, brother knocked him out. Man was laying on the floor. The police pulled up. This is when it got real for me. Because I'm coming from Detroit. I'm like, man, police, that was a different story. But the man was laying on the floor. The brother who knocked him out was standing right there. Imam Jamil was right there, had long clothes on. And the police jumped out of the car. And this shocked me. You know what they said? Imam, you want us to take him away? I said, is this a drink? What? You know what the Imam said? No, man, it's all right, man. We give him something to drink, man. He'll be all right. He got to go. The police is checking with the Imam. Oh my Allah. I was like, yo, we staying here. We are staying here. That was amazing. That's the brothers, boy. That's why I'm here. I'm grateful to be here. Shukran Imam Isa for bringing me out to stay connected with the crew. Imam Ishra, you another one, Imam Ishra. But Imam Ishra had a different swag. Imam Ishra always, he be moving in stealth. That was his thing. Right, Imam Ishra moved like that. You know, and Imam Isa, Sheikh Assad, they had all of the boys, man. And then Imam Alameen, y'all know Imam Alameen? Imam Alameen. I'm sorry, you had to know these guys. These were my characters. I was growing up, I would just be looking at them like, I didn't know that this is what I was gonna be doing as a profession, you know, making movies. But all of these guys, I love them so much because I feel connected just watching them. And I didn't know I would be watching them like I'm gonna be recording. Like, sometimes I knew Imam Alameen didn't hear anything I said. They'd be like, go ask Imam Alameen what time. I said, son, Imam Alameen, what time is the next book? Say something, man. You don't even answer my question. And then Imam Siraj was always like, he reminded me of like the Muslim Martin Luther King. You know, Allah says in his Quran. Now I'm talking. He does, yeah, you have I'll be like, yes, yes. وخلقها من زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء. I'll be like, Imam Surah. Amen. I mean. These are all my friends. I love them. I love them dearly. Okay, that's the problem. So listen, we are building Halalywood, and I started this company called Halalywood because Muslims don't have entertainment and keep it halal. There he is, check outside. I was giving you love. It's my version of love. Look, this is how I remember your walk in. Check outside. You know what I mean? Be like, yeah. We can be mad. That's what I said. That's what I said. I don't want the homie lonely. All right, but I started Halalywood. Alhamdulillah, we made one film, and now, alhamdulillah, we're making another film. The intention is to get our narratives out. Like some of these narratives that we have, like, I have so many stories about being in the masjid. Like, I was standing next to the brother, and it was Ramadan, and he felt offended by the brother taking so long at Maghrib. I mean, the brother was like reciting Surah Al-Baqarah, and it's Maghrib. You know when it goes into right? And when you know you're supposed to go into ruku, and be like, Bil Alameen. And then everybody be like, what's something? You go, oh, that's what happened. So when we finished Salat, true story, this brother, I'm sitting right next to this brother, older brother. He pulled out, pulled out the chicken leg out of his pocket. His biscuit out. I said, where did you get the chicken? I was gonna break my fast, but we had to make slide. I need to put these things in the film. These are embedded in me. I had to put these, like when I'm telling the sister, and then now our sisters, alhamdulillah, the sisters have the hijab, but then they also have these eyelashes going on like, the eyelash. Assalamu alaikum. It happened in COVID. Like everybody wore niqab. Everybody. Even me. When the stewardess was like, your mask, keep your mask on in between your nibbles and bits. Like I was trying to remember. My mother used to wear niqab. I was like, did she pull it down or did she pull it up? Because I had to eat like this. I was like, I needed to have that niqab so I could just be. But everybody wore niqab. Even the brothers, man, they was dressing up their eyes. Remember the brothers used to wear kuhul all the time. They got off of that. COVID, kuhul is back. It's gonna get them right here. It's gonna get them. All we can show is our eyes. The system. I know. And this, alhamdulillah, Allah bless us. We outside. So I want to make films and tell these beautiful stories. I was supposed to have been off. Haram. I know. I'm sorry. I was working it out. Some things I was writing and I had never heard me say it out loud because we don't have comedy clubs to go to for halal comedy. So I was working some stuff out. I'm gonna take some stuff, I'm gonna leave some stuff. Y'all are in them for this is a treat, So do me one huge favor though. If you have the videos, don't put the whole videos up, maybe use 10 or 15 seconds. Because, alhamdulillah, I do have a distribution deal now, and the intent is to have a halal comedy 1 hour special for us. And alhamdulillah, we just filmed one 2 weeks ago in Los Angeles, where we had 3 sisters and 4 brothers. So alhamdulillah, the intent now is to bring Halalywood to mainstream media so that we can tell our stories, and I believe we can do it. So alhamdulillah, keep me in the du'as. But you can follow me on the Instagram. The numbers, it helps with the numbers. So if you can remember, the name is Omarijan. Rigan, okay, Rigan. OMARREGAN. And then inshallah, if you do post any 10 or 15 seconds, inshallah, just tag me in there. And then shukran, I appreciate y'all. Shukran for having me, Imam. Thank y'all. And if I could have some security. I don't know if you're on my side or if you were sitting. They sent him. Look, you see when he come, they sent the man in white. So like Marquis, inshallah, but Imam want to see you. Shukran, assalamu alaikum. Takbir!
We're going to have a little adjustment in the venue here. Seeing as the time is getting with us, we want to bring up Felipe. He is one who has been involved and knows Imam Jamil from way back. They go back like climbing chairs. And we want to hear from him to bring us up to snuff on some of the things that has been going on, why he's in the position that he's in now, and how we can better help him to get out of this. So put your hands together with a big takbir for our brother Felipe. Takbir!
I was asking God to give me some wisdom that I might impart to you that would allow us to free our minds and to begin to think in a new way. We've been doing this for about 25 years now with regard to rap.
Baba Felipe. Can I get Baba Abiodun to introduce you?
Can you get a what?
Baba Abiodun.
Is he here?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, as soon as I finish. Where is he?
Can he introduce you?
No, Abiodun doesn't have to introduce you. Come on up here, Papa. This is my brother Abiodun of the Last Poets, one of the founders of the Last Poets. Please give him a round of applause.
I've been enjoying today. It's been exciting, informative, and most beautiful. And I've been enjoying looking at the flowers in the garden. You sisters are absolutely beautiful. And it's a pleasure to see you. I've been appreciating the brothers, and the comedian was outstanding. Give him another hand. I was told Felipe was coming. We've been brothers for 54 years. The Last Poets have been in existence. That's over a half a century. I feel very grateful and honored. The only reason that we exist is because of folks like you who believed in what we had to say and supported us and kept us alive. Thank you very much.
All right, brother. Abiodun, Last Poet. You okay, Papa?
You got it?
Come on. Come on. I'm going to say some things that may, well, they certainly are going to be different, sound different. It's 2022. We have to begin to think in a new strategic way. First of all, let me try to explain to you why he is still in jail, why he is still incarcerated. The U.S. intelligence community knew for a long time that there was going to be an uprising in the Middle East with regard to Muslims. They knew that young boys were going to start taking up arms. And they were terrified, and I mean terrified, that there might be a corollary movement in this country. And the only one that could probably energize that movement was Jamil al-Amin. When you want somebody out, when you want to you move them off the counter, we see the judge get them off the counter. They had to do that. There's something else. This man is so charismatic, so incredibly courageous, that he has become an icon. His courage is legendary. But the public doesn't know about it. You know about it. Muslims know about it. These kids out here don't know about it. They need an icon. They need a mentor. They need a man. And God knows we have few of those around. With the kind of sexual identity problems that's going on, these kids need somebody that they can stand with and stand for. That is not happening in this country. We've turned into a culture of secularity, a culture of materialism, a culture of superficial nonsense. You know the rap songs, you know what's happening. So our kids would rather look up to Jay-Z, nothing wrong with them, Jay-Z and Beyonce and all that stuff. And what's her name? Cardi B. And Minaj, then look at what is happening to the government of this country. I think we're going to have to start looking at new ways of approaching Christians in this country. Let's be careful. We cannot continue to make this a Muslim issue. It is not a question of a Muslim being incarcerated. It's a human being who's in jail who needs to be out of jail. Why are we making this incestuous? It's not incestuous. This is my brother who's been in there 50, how many years? 34 years? Come on, y'all. It's wonderful that you have your little coffee classes and we all get together. I want this to hit America. America has to know what's happening. He is under the jail. He's not outside. He's under in Arizona. Do you know what that is? Supermax. For those of you who have never been in jail, let me tell you something. I was in jail. I got a 5-year bid. I only spent 2 years. It still affects me. I have PTSD. This is no joke. And he's been in there that long. They tried to kill him by not helping him with his health. It took his wife, and God knows all of you, to get the government to take the cataracts out and to cool him out. I'm telling you, they want him dead. They don't want him out. What are we doing to provide information to the public about what he's going through? I'm not interested in us talking to each other. We've done that already. What are we going to do with the Christians in this place? He's got to be in every Baptist, every Methodist, every Lutheran, every Pentecostal. People have to know who he is. And we have to go with our traditional God into these places and speak to them as brothers and sisters. We can't continue to separate ourselves from Christianity. We can't do that. First of all, as you know, Islam is an all-inclusive religion. All the prophets are lauded. How many people know that? When I sat down with the kids and I told them, wait a minute, Jesus is considered one of the great prophets in Islam. Moses is, and by the way, they believe that somebody's coming back. They may not call him Jesus, but he's coming back. What are you all talking about? Why are you dividing yourself this way? We have made this incestuous. We have done this. Let's get out. Let's break open this mold and start to publicize the name of Rap Brown. Now, I know that a lot of you have adopted the Muslim, and he has. But can I tell you that if I have to use his name, Rap Brown, because it rhymes, it moves, it has swag, if I have to use that, then I'm going to use that. I know that you consider it pious to say Jamil Al-Amin. Let me tell you something. He was in Harlem, he was in among the Puerto Ricans, he's Rap Brown. When they were looking for him, the FBI was looking for him, do you know he was in East Harlem with us? Now, you know Puerto Ricans are short. And this big tall brother was walking in East Harlem, and people loved him. They couldn't find him. First of all, if they would have had to fight a bunch of Puerto Ricans. You know how we are. You hit one, you got to hit all of us. We've got to find another way to do public relations on it. We have to find ways to do public relations. That means stories, articles, movies, documentaries. Something has to be done. We can't continue doing this. It's incestuous. And again, I'm going to say this again. The community of Al-Islam has to move out. They have to move beyond this. visiting churches, visiting synagogues, visiting Buddhist places, visiting Hindu. I don't care what it is. And talking up the heroes, the icons. This man is courageous. Let me tell you something. The reason they keep him down so much is because they understand transcendental. Do you know when you're near him, you feel it? You feel it. They say he has gone into places of incarceration and correctional officers have converted. Correctional officers have said, hey man, this is too much. I want to turn into a Muslim. I want to go Muslim. Wherever he goes, the kids just come up to him. He has a charisma, an aura. They don't want that in the United States. That's why they killed Fred Hampton, by the way. They don't want another. That whole thing of the Black Messiah, they are afraid. And you must see it that way. He's a tremendously charismatic man. And we have to see him that way. Do you know that he took a place
In the middle of Atlanta, in the middle of, is this thing working?
Hello? In the middle of Atlanta, and I told Rap, they want this. They want this real estate. And they're gonna do everything to get it. It was drug-free, crime-free, and they were mad at that. I knew they were gonna try to do something. Whenever they don't allow evidence in the cases, many of you know, a guy admitted to killing a cop. Admitted it, and they wouldn't allow it in court. We've got to retry this case. We've got to get it before the United States. I don't care how far we have to the Supreme Court. We've done it with all of the other black heroes who've fallen. Let's do it with him. What are we afraid of? Because it has to do with cops being killed? We know what they've done. We must begin to move out. Now, I'm going to go back to what he did for me. I had just come out of jail. I was 18. I had joined the Last Poets. I was in Queens College. And he came to he was working with SNCC at the time. And I don't know how many of you know this, I'm pretty sure you do, but he was one of the heads of SNCC, Student Nonviolent Coordinator, before Stokely Carmichael. Tremendously courageous. I don't know if you know this, but SNCC were the ones who were going down south. People say, well, that was corny, it wasn't right. Man, to be able to face these crackers like that, on that level, you gotta have heart. I wasn't crazy about it. I didn't believe in it. Long story short, or short story long, he came to my class one day and he started, I was teaching a political workshop, and there was a Puerto Rican brother, and you know we have this colonization thing. We swear to be white. We have a problem. And the guy wanted, when I would talk about black and Puerto Rican, he said, well, I'm not black. And Rap was very compassionate, by the way. He was very tender with the ones who disagree with him, unless you were being stupid. And he told the guy the story of the South, of a guy, a serviceman who was coming back from his tour of duty, and he got on the bus, and he walked to the front, and the guy said, no, you gotta walk to the back of the bus. And the Puerto Rican guy said, no, you don't understand. I'm Puerto Rican. And he said, I don't care what kind of nigga you are. You gotta go to the back. So we were rolling the floor, but the guy got very, very mad. He got very annoyed. And Rap had to explain to him that if he were in the South and he tried that on Puerto Rican, then he'd be hung by his toes. He had the amazing ability to translate something that was a political reality into something humorous, which is what you have to do sometimes.
You have to be humorous in this game. Pero, ¿qué carajo está pasando aquí? Hello? 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 You right away, hello?
Óyeme, ¿qué pasa? I'm the first one to say it's the governor. My point is that with all of the stuff we've seen, how many of you saw The Black Messiah? How many of you saw the movie? Do you understand why they can't stand Rap? Fred Hampton was able to connect people of all races, all creeds, and bring them together. Fred Hampton actually went to the head of a rival gang who the FBI had said that Fred was going to kill this guy, and said, man, I'm not going to kill you. I don't want to kill you. I was able to cool it out. I don't know if you know this, but Chicago was a gang town. Peace Stone Nation had gas stations, number holes, grocery stores, everything. And of course, they had the drug trade. And so what happened is their money being lost meant a lot to them. He was able, Fred Hampton was able to put together white Appalachians, called the Young Patriots, Puerto Ricans, the group that I belong to, the Young Lords, Chacha Jimenez, and the Panthers. That is not done. Do you know something? Rap was able to do the same thing. I was always amazed. As much as he talked about honkies, he used that term all the time. He had many white revolutionary friends. Many of them. And it taught me a lesson. Revolution is not about color, it's about consciousness. It's about where you stand in terms of consciousness. Amazing. He comes from a working class family. When I went to Baton Rouge with him, I'm gonna tell you another story and then I'll end this. They said that he could knock a muskrat out of a drain pipe from 50 feet away. I always think if there were two cops, if there were two cops there, both of them would. Go ahead. Hello? Father, I'm not going to allow this to stop me. Both of them would have been dead. He was an excellent shot. Can you imagine? I'm in Baton Rouge, and I'm going to end this with this story, folks. I'm in Baton Rouge. I have been asked to be part of a Young Lords party, a Puerto Rican activist party that believes in the independence of Puerto Rico. As a parenthetical phrase, I want you to know that I really believe Puerto Ricans are Muslims. I really believe that. 750 years Islam had Spain. Not one major war. And we still have about 6,000 to 10,000 words of Arabic in the Spanish language. It's amazing. You say, inshallah, we say, ojalá. It's the same thing. When you look at the family structure of Puerto Ricans and of Latinos in general, you see that we're very strong about family. Those of you who have been brought up in New York City or in Chicago and those towns know that when you mess with a Puerto Rican family, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. The father doesn't go around asking, did you do my daughter? It's over. They don't go to the police. They find the body. I understand that kind of passion. So I didn't want to do it, and I had been told, I had been approached by this group to join this student organization, and I had been challenged by a guy named Kane as to my blackness. I should add that the Last Post were the only group in the United States to include a Puerto Rican or Latino in an all-black nationalist group. That was amazing for the time. Nobody had ever done it, and still they haven't done it. We still have this thing about it's either black or white, no Latinos. We've got to stop that too. We've got to start bringing in Latinos into this movement because they're coming. They're being born in thousands and thousands. That whole critical race here, though, we're going to replace, they're going to replace us. You know the guy's right. We are going to replace it. Now the question is, do we have the education and the heart and the compassion to do it with elegance and with intelligence? But we are going to replace them. Now, I was told in so many words I wasn't black enough. So I ran to Rap Brown. I was crying. I said, man, you know, I can't. I don't know if I want to do this. I don't know if I want to do the Young Lords because I'm not sure if they're ready for armed struggle. So I thought I was so hip. I thought I was so down. And Rap said, I'll tell you what. Take a trip with me. I'm going to Baton Rouge next week. And we went down south. Went all the way down south. LSU was playing somebody. I think it was Grambling. And I saw an integrated crowd, y'all, playing football. And so I was so amazed that people were getting along so well that I hit Rap. He used to wear these glasses all the time. He had a huge fro, And what his dad said, and I said, Rep, do you see this? Do you people again, is this the New South? He said, Negro, what's wrong with you? These are all black people. They're octoroons, quadroons, mulattoes. He said, that's what they are. And he said, and let me tell you something. And the reason I brought you here, I don't like a lot of them. But you need everybody in this movement. You cannot deny or shun people, black people. You have to take them all in. And whatever their skill set is, that's what you have to use. You can't say, well, he ain't got that hard. He ain't got to stop. Whatever the skill is, whatever skill you have, that's your mission. I don't know why we expect people to be like us. I used to think if a guy couldn't fight, he wasn't ready to stop. I had to stop it. It was arrogance on my part. So he said, he showed me all of the people in the audience, all the people in the stadium who were very, very fair. I thought they were Irish, Italian, and Jewish. They were not. They were all black. And when we got there, he said, and I had to go back to New York. He drove me from Baton Rouge all the way back to Darul. The reason for the young lords is not so much Puerto Rican independence, though it was Rep. Brown, who told me if they're not ready, raise their consciousness. You do it. And stop looking at other people. You do it. And so I would suggest to those of us here that we make a renewed effort to take the issue of Rep. Brown to the public, to public schools, put his poster on bedrooms, put him in school, put him on a neighborhood. We don't have that. Because if that doesn't happen, we're going to forget. Our kids are not there. They need to know this. They need to know who he is. I don't want him to die without people knowing how brave he was. Anybody who goes up a flight of stairs and is fighting police, and by the way, I think he's a hero. I think he's like almost like a comic book hero. You know what it is to get shot 5 times and not to say who you are? I'm gonna say it again. Do you know what it is to get shot 5 times and not to tell the police who you are? Man, right. This man is incredible. He's incredible. He's a superhero as far as I'm concerned. My kids love him. I think we need to get out. We need to get the word out. We need to get the word out. We need to get that word out more and more and more. We need to get it into news. I don't know why the news is, maybe it's because I left. But we need to get more people to do that. People are afraid when it comes to the police. Activists are afraid to advocate. And this is on you. If you're afraid to advocate because somebody fought the police back and lived, that's on you. Because it's going to get worse, folks. This country is moving toward armed confrontation, whether you like to admit it or not. We're moving toward a civil war. When they're doing what they're doing now they've included Latinos in it. So we can all be serial killers. They didn't want it to just be white. I think we had better wake up. I love humor. I think the brother was fantastic, by the way, who was before you. And I love families. But start preparing now to understand that there may come a time in this country where we're going to be very divided, if we're not already. And we're going to have to decide what kind of a country we want. And the leader that they do not want out here is Rep. Brown. I ask God, what happens? Why is it that warriors are not revered? I've never understood that. Why are warriors not revered? And as I was praying, meditating, salating, it came to me that Jesus had no real people, no people who really understood who he was. He went back to Nazareth, you know this story. He went back to Nazareth and he couldn't do miracles because people didn't believe in him. When you speak to history professors, when you speak to people in Black history, and you ask them, do you remember Rep. Brown? Do you remember Imam? They say, yeah, and they kind of give it, pass it through. He inspired more people. He was in the Black Panthers. He inspired them. He was at the center of the Black Power movement. He was at the center of Black consciousness movement, the negritude movement. He was at the center of it in Harlem. What might have happened had he not been there? I know I wouldn't be who I am. He means a lot to me as a Black Puerto Rican. He means a lot to Puerto Ricans, and I would hope that he means so much to you that you're willing to renew your effort to publicize what he's going through. We have to make him a popular hero. He has to become as popular as Batman, as popular as Superman, as popular as everybody. Make him popular, and we can do it. I ask this in the name of all that is holy. God bless you.
Thank you, brother.
One more time. Yes. Alhamdulillah. Let's put one more round of applause for Felipe. Alhamdulillah. We're having a beautiful evening here. So much knowledge and wisdom and laughter, comedy, and family. You know, I'm seeing people here that I haven't seen in years. You're all still beautiful, alhamdulillah. But now we want to close the evening out with our Imam, inshallah. Imam Isa Abdul Karim. I told a story to Imam Isa one time when I was vacillating back and forth, going to the Nation of Islam and being caught in between the Sunnah. And one of my high school friends, Sadiq Abdullah, he told me, he said, that's not really Islam. So I was on my way into Manhattan, and I used to love the Sunnah. I always wore the Sunnah, even when I went up on 116th. And I got off the train in Freeport. I said, well, I can't do this anymore. A woman came up to me, she said, there's some people right down the street that's dressed like you. I said, really? I said, can I walk there? She said, it's a nice day. I walked down Nassau Road, and there I found Taha Masjid. Allahu Akbar. This started my journey with the Sunnah. I took classes with Imam Isa. And then after a few classes, he said, okay, you gotta go. I said, where am I going? He said, you gotta go out there on Long Island, teach the people Islam. I said, I don't know Islam. He said, you gotta teach what you know. And then out of that came Masjid Mustaqim, Masjid Allahu Akbar, Masjid Al-Fatiha. There's about 4 masjids we started out in Suffolk County, alhamdulillah. But the root started with this brother. So without further ado, we want to bring up our Imam, Imam Isa Abdul Karim. Takbir! 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 Here comes that swag.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم. أما بعد. Alhamdulillah for Brother Felipe. I had to cool down from laughing from Umar. So I probably couldn't come up to the stage. That's an act that you just can't follow. But there's a time for entertainment, and then there's a time to get serious. And so I'm here because Imam Jamil gave me a call about 2 weeks ago. And he asked me to give the Darul Islamic dawah. That's what he said to me. He said, Imam, it's more than just about me. He said, I need you to go out there and get that Darul Islamic dawah, because we talked about making a motion picture, telling Imam Jamil's story. I told him that we were talking to Imam, he was saying that he knew some people in Hollywood that would be, susceptible to doing this. Imam Jamil told me, he said, do not make this all about me. He said, bring me in on the Darul Islamic Movement Dawah. He said, go all the way back to State Street, talk about Sheikh Darul and that evolutionary process. So I'm going to try to start off today with dealing with what we refer to as the psychosocial, the evolutionary process. And this begins with the Nat Turner movement. The Nat Turner movement, which eventually became the Marcus Garvey movement. And then the Marcus Garvey movement came the Rosa Parks movement. And then the Rosa Parks movement became the Black Power movement. And then the Black Power movement became the Black Nationalist movement. Now I'm going to stop there. If you notice that I missed the civil rights movement, it's because there was no civil rights movement. Civil rights was never the issue until it became a situation where the racists of this society had to come up with an alternative to the evolutionary process of Black people that was going to take them to a state of greatness by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right now I'm quoting my niece over there. She probably doesn't want me to mention her name. Nadia Abdul Qudus. But she used to always say to me, we're a sleeping giant and we gotta wake up. And I think that's what Brother Felipe is trying to tell us. The reason why I didn't mention the civil rights movement is because 179 slaves that died in the Civil War, fought in the Civil War, 40,000 of them died. They did not fight in the Civil War for civil rights. They did not die in the Civil War for civil rights. They fought in the Civil War because they had an agreement with the government. And the agreement that they had with the government was that, number one, they would give them back their freedom. And number two, they would have the right of self-determination. It was not about civil rights. It was about the right of self-determination. And that self-determination was called 40 acres and a mule. From there, we talked about the Rosa Parks movement, because her movement was a movement of defiance, not civil rights, defiance. And she set the pace for us, as women often do. You know, my brother, Nadia's father, Abdul Rashid, he was my older brother. He used to tell me something all the time. He used to say that the movement is not going to move without the Black woman. When the Black woman decides that it's going to move, and she makes her move, movement will be established. He told me that all the time. I didn't understand what he was saying until I remembered and reflected upon the hadith that talks about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When he went up into the cave of Hira, And when he came down from that cave, he had just had an interaction with the angel Gabriel. He was in a state of trauma. And he came down from the cave and he went to his wife Khadijah. And he said to her, I fear for myself. He thought he was losing it. And his wife Khadijah, she grabbed him, she caressed him, and she said to him, nay, by thy Lord, Allah will never lead you astray. For thou earnest for the destitute, thou honorest the guest, thou unitest the ties of relationship, and helpest the real in distress. So the foundation of the Islamic movement was based upon the woman. When we moved from the Rosa Parks movement to the Black Power movement, we got to the Black nationalist movement. And something happened. An ideology was developed. We came to the conclusion that the whole aspect of racism was really not the problem. The problem was the system that gave birth to the racism, the system that continued to feed the racism. And from that point, we began to understand that if Black people wanted freedom, justice, and equality, then they had to change the system. So we started looking for a new system, and that brought us from the Black nationalist movement to the Darul Islamic movement. That's how we got it. When we came into the Darul Islamic movement, we found the system of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The system that over and over throughout the years became a liberating system for just about every human being on the planet. Of course, I'm refuting all the lies and the things that they've been putting out about Islamic movement or Islam in general, about the whole aspect of terrorism. I'm talking about empires. We talk about the golden years of Africa. We talk about the glorious years of Africa. We talk about the Songhai tribes. We talk about Manson Musa, Soni Ali. We talk about Timbuktu. We talk about Africa at its heights. This was all done under the umbrella of the Deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so the Islamic movement, which evolved out of all these other movements, now understood that it was about establishing this system. And the reason why I'm going to this, and I started with the evolutionary process, is because we have to realize something. And right before Imam Jamil got arrested, we went to a SNCC meeting. It was in commemoration of Stokely Carmichael. I think he was getting ready to pass away. I think the Imam knew about it. But anyway, we went there. All the former leaders of SNCC were there. Louis Farrakhan was there. Wesley Snipes was there. There were some celebrities there. And immediately when we walked in with Imam Jamil, everybody just turned and looked. They weren't sure it was him because they hadn't seen him on the scene for a long time. And so he got on the stage and they came up to me. They saw me come in with him and they said, "Is that A-Trap Brown?" And I said, "Yeah, that's A-Trap Brown." And when he got up, he gave the speech that I just gave to you. He talked about the struggle. He said, struggles come and go. And he talked about the Nat Turner struggle, the Nat Turner movement, the Marcus Garvey movement. He mentioned, I don't think he mentioned the civil rights movement, but he went into the Black Power movement and he went into the Black nationalist movement. And then he turned to all the revolutionaries that were out there and he said to them that the struggle was still on. And if you thought that the struggle would end at this particular state in time, then his position is that you failed to bring about a sense of closure. And he said there can be no closure till every wrong has been made right. And they gave him a standing ovation. He called them to the ultimate movement. The ultimate movement was the supreme struggle. The supreme struggle of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That you should understand the whole aspect of revolution. That when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands you to make the salat 5 times a day in congregation, that's revolution. Because in order to adhere to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said in the Quran, you have to shut down the system of the company store. Now, some of y'all may not be familiar with the company store, but Tennessee Ernie Ford, he made a record years ago, and he was talking about, another day older and deeper in debt. St. Peter, don't you call me because I can't come, because I owe my soul to the company store. When you making salat 5 times a day, you shut down the company store. You shut down the system of the company store. And then you create an alternative for yourself. And that alternative is, in order to maintain independence from the company store, you got to build your own store. So you go back to the whole aspect of self-determination. You got to develop your own economics. Economics that are independent of the economics of the company store. This is revolution. When the Muslim sister decides that she's going to put on the hijab, or she's going to wear the niqab, or she's going to wear the jilbab, she's going to dress in the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded her to dress in the 24th surah. That's revolution. Because she is now saying to the system that I will no longer be a victim of sexual exploitation. You will no longer look at me as some sex object because I got a mind, I got a soul, and before you deal with me, you got to deal with my mind and my soul first. That's revolution. When the Muslims come together and decide that they're going to build their own Islamic schools, the madrasas, that's revolution. Because now you take away the power that this man has over our children in terms of the socialization process. Because it's not just about the information that he's given, he's determining how they should process that information. So when you build your Islamic schools, you begin to establish or determine the process of the information by what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said, by what Rasulullah alayhi wa salatu salam have said. This is revolution. The Muslim woman is the most revolutionary woman on the planet. But she's on the top of her game. Why? Because she does what all the women envy her to do, and that is she is saying, when they developed the women's liberation movement, it was all based upon sexual exploitation. But you see that all the women continue to concede to that by allowing themselves to be used as sex objects. The Muslim woman says no. Again, you're going to check out my mind, you're going to check out my soul, you're going to follow what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded you to do before you can see or get any of this. The most liberated woman on the planet. Once you begin to see yourself as revolutionaries, then you can begin to understand the true threat that you pose. And that's what the Imam was trying to give to the brothers at Snake. That's what the Imam was calling the former revolutionaries to move to the final phase. He actually turned to Stokely Carmichael when we were there. And he invited them to the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He invited them, he called them to the struggle, to the final struggle. We have to begin to understand this, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought us through a door, an evolutionary process, a common experience, an historical common experience for a reason. He gave us the leadership for a reason. But something happened. We began to interact, of course, with other Muslim groups, other races, because we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has said that we have split you up into different nations and tribes, but not to despise one another, only to know one another, that you know where your drinking hole is, that you know where you should go to get your information, that you know where you should go in order to be able to be with those to whom share the same common experience that you share, but not to despise other races. So we began to interact with our brothers and sisters who migrated from overseas. Alhamdulillah, the Islamic movement began to grow, began to develop, as long as it was under our leadership. But then we made a critical mistake. We turned the leadership over to brothers and sisters who didn't understand the system. That's what makes us the leaders. That's why I went back through the evolutionary process to introduce you to why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made you the leadership. And because we turned that over to them, then the agenda changed. The agenda that we were bringing about was that we were looking for alternatives. We were looking for alternatives to a system that we knew was failing, a system that was failing the masses of the people. And therefore, we were looking for an alternative system. But then when we turned it over to our brothers and sisters that had migrated over here, and because of their naiveness, and because they did not have the same evolutionary process or share the common experience that we shared, their position was that they wanted to assimilate into the same system that we were trying to get at. And so when they became the leadership, we wind up being in a position where we made a 180. Instead of progressing, we had to turn around and follow their leadership, and we began to regress. And that's the state that we had now. Your brother Felipe said something very profound. And that takes us back to what my niece used to say, the sleeping giant. You look around, you see all the stuff that's going on in America today, the confusion that's going on in America today, you better look at yourself because it's your fault. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took you through that evolutionary process. You better than anyone knows that Allah has given you this deen to take it back to the people. The same way Rasulullah took it back to the people. But what we've done is we put down the mantle that Allah has given us. We turned it over to a people who don't understand because it wasn't their mantle. And so as a result of that, now we're in a situation where we got all kinds of confusion, and we got another generation of people that are reaching out. They're looking for the alternative, but there's no one there to give them the alternative. Why? Because the same people who went through the same process that they went through, we're not there for them. So the purpose of the new Darul Islamic movement is to put the train back on the track. That's what this is all about. Imam Jamil called me up about 3 years ago, and he asked me to take the position as his acting Amir. Most people don't understand the state of mind that I was going through. If he'd asked me that 20 years ago, I would have taken it. 30 years ago, I would have taken it. 40 years ago, I'd have jumped on it. I was a young man. You know, when you're young, you think you know everything. But now, I'm at a different stage of my life, and I find myself in a position, I'm saying, wow, man, I didn't know these 50 years in Islamic movement, man, I felt like it's time for me to get a little piece of land somewhere, just go somewhere and just chill out. You know, I've served my time, as Rambo used to say. And Imam called me up and he said almost the same thing that my niece said to me years ago. Your job is not over. You got to get up. You got more work to do. And I'm going to tell you something. When Brother Felipe says how amazing he is, every time I start going through changes, and I do that often, I start asking myself, why are you doing this at your age? I get a call from the Imam. And then the Imam is always constantly telling me about struggle. I mean, he's giving lectures to me. He's giving khutbahs to me. He starts off by asking me, you need anything, man? And I'm embarrassed. No, Imam, do you need something? What can I do for you? But never once does he open this conversation up about what he needs. It's always about what I need, what he can do for me. And then he starts giving me the lecture about struggle. It's about the struggle. And the thing that makes me feel bad when he gives me that lecture is that when he's talking to me, I got to realize that we're talking about a man that's been shut down over 20 years. In some situations, he's been shut down on almost a total lockdown, maybe an hour, 2 hours, where they let him out. Total lockdown. And his mental capacity, his stamina, his ability to continue to struggle, as Brother Felipe says, is amazing. Superhero. So when he's sitting there, rather when I'm sitting there and I'm listening to him on the phone and he's talking to me and he's recharging me, the first thing comes to my mind is if the Imam can be in jail for over 20 years and he can tell me that it's all about the struggle, then I got to realize and understand that compared to what he's doing, a few more years out here trying to establish the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is nothing. So the call is to put the train back on the track, to put the leadership back in the hands of the leaders. And who are the leaders? Wish you could turn that camera around and look at yourselves. You are the leaders. You are the people who built Islamic movement in this country. The Islamic centers, the masjids, all that was built on your backs, on your pioneering. I remember I was talking to Sheikh Rashad, and he was going through that. And I got an authentic Darul Islamic member, brother sitting back there, Brother Sadiq, and he would tell you there was a time when Muslims were afraid to even walk down the street in the thobe. It was the brothers from the Darul Islamic movement that put on the thobe when we walked down the street. The sisters were afraid to cover. It was the sisters in the movement that put on the hijab. They put on the niqab. They put on the clothing for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They broke down all the walls and the misconceptions. And I mean, there were misconceptions. But the one thing that was pleasing about what we did, we earned the respect of the society, but we didn't earn the respect of the society by kissing anybody behind. Imam Inshura mentioned about Taha Masjid. When we established Taha Masjid, the first couple of years, we had 2 fist fights with the police department. We was fighting all up and down Nassau Road. To the point where the police, they thought we was crazy. They said, don't you realize that we're the police department, that you're supposed to fear us? And we told them, we don't fear nobody but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He didn't understand it. They had to sit down and study Islam. They actually went and got some dawah. They said, we can't figure this out because, we used to have these niggas scared of us all the time. Now all of a sudden, they open up some book and they lose the fear for us. They don't fear nothing but Allah. Eventually, it began to call us stand-up guys. So we don't know anything about what they're doing, but those are some stand-up guys. The practice of this deen is in conjunction with the evolutionary process that we went through. The problem is that we don't have the self-esteem that we're supposed to have. We don't believe in ourselves. We don't believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen us for this deen. Because we don't understand the beauty of this deen. When you look at the story of Noah alayhi salam, when the prominent members of the people during that time came to Noah alayhi salam, remember they said to Noah alayhi salam, they said, we would follow thee, but we don't see none other than the meanest of people with you. the meanest of people. That's the beauty of this deen, that it always comes to the meanest of people, the people of no count. You know, ex-Crips, ex-Bloods, you know, ex-Fam, ex-chaplains, ex-bishops, ex-Jolly Stompers, ex-chaplains, you know, ex-young lords. I can go on and on and on. And when we talk about the universal brotherhood that we have the ability to bring in, we got the ability to bring our Hispanic brothers in because they understand that we share common experience. They can't pick that up from those who have not gone through the evolutionary process that we went through in this country. So that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen us, has taken the people of no count, the lowest of the low, and has given them the mantle to raise them up to be the highest of the high. But we don't believe in ourselves. We still don't understand. And that's the dawah of the Darul Islamic movement. The whole aspect of beginning to understand the significance of the deen being put into your hands because of the historical experiences that you shared. If you look into the new Darul Islamic movement national policy, that policy was given to me when I was practically a baby years ago by the elders of the movement. If you look at that national policy, you see where it says a people of common experience. When it talks about community, understanding the concept and the whole aspect that we cannot assimilate into this system without contaminating the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah has given us. If we assimilate into it, we contaminate the deen. So therefore, the only alternative is to continue to move in the path that we was moving. And that is the path of self-determination, economic empowerment. We gotta have it. Political empowerment. We gotta have it. I hear people act like, you know, that there's no politics in Islam. But yet I've read a hadith and I've read a story where Rasulullah was part of a community activist movement at 15 years old before he received the revelation. Before. And then he was asked after the prophethood, would he still be part of that community activist movement? And he said, yes, even today, if that movement called me, I would be prepared to participate in it. Then you look at what Khadijah said to him, the reason why he could not be led astray. She said, no, but nay, by thy Lord, Allah will never lead you astray. Why? Because thou earnest for the destitute, thou honorest the guest, thou unitest the ties of relationship, and thou helpest the real in distress. Laying down the path of the person who is on the path even before they embrace the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what we were doing. We were earning for the destitute, we were helping the real in distress. We were out there fighting against social injustices. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gave us the deen as a gift and said, okay, I see what you're doing. Now here's the tool, here's the instrument in order to fulfill your responsibility, to fulfill your journey. And we were doing it. We were on the path until we turned around and began to show the insecurity, and then we began to give it to the people. And I'm not putting down, this is not about racism or anything like that. It's just about historical experience. They don't share the same historical experience. They don't understand the system the way we understand it. They think this system is nice. They think this system is, Brother Malcolm used to say, the difference between the field Negro and the house Negro. See, the Darul Islamic movement was made up of the field Negroes. See, the house Negro had a different mentality. Remember that? Everybody should know that story. Someone come up to the house Negro about the master's house, got caught on fire, you fight harder to put the house out quicker than the master would. If the master got sick, the house Negro would say, what's the matter, boss? We sick? We sick. And if someone came to the house Negro, this is very important. and said, let's separate. Let's move from here. Let's find some place where we can have self-determination. The house Negro would say, where you going to get a better place than this? Where you going to find a better master than this? Where you going to get a better job than this? See, we went through all that before we even embraced the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So by the time we embraced it, we read it. We understood it from experience. Unfortunately, we turned our backs on the experience. We turned our back on the fact that Allah has chosen us to be the leadership because we understand the system. I keep saying it again. We understand the system better than anyone else. And so as a result of that, the chaos and the confusion and the things that you see that are taking place because the people to whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given the mantle to are not doing their job. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave Rasulullah the mantle to overcome social injustice. What was it called? Khalifaship. He gave him the khilafah. And here's something that Brother Felipe mentioned that a lot of people don't talk about. The benefit of that khilafah was not just for the Muslims. There were Christians, Jews, there were non-Muslims who were part of the Islamic Ummah. And as long as they submitted to the legislation that came from the Quran and the decisions that were made by Rasulullah as it was passed down to the Khulafa Rashidun, as long as they did that, they remained members of the Ummah, just based on the law. They were allowed to continue to practice their religion. People don't even talk about that. Why? Because yes, Islam, there is the religious aspect, but there's also the system, a system that's applicable for every person on the planet Earth. And right now, the information, the knowledge that's being taught is absence of that system. And I'm going to try to summarize this. I remember when, right before the Imam got arrested, and you start putting all this together, you begin to understand what was going on. He took me with him, and we made the trip overseas. And we went, and we sat down with a revolutionary. His name was Dr. Islam. And he began to explain to us about Khilafah. And what he said was that all the Dalil, all the Quran and the Hadiths that dealt with Khilafah was taken off the shelf. Taken off the shelf and whether it was deemed inaccurate. So even though they were in the universities, they were no longer being used. And the reason why he talked about that, he said because it was dealing with the colonial period when the European empires conquered the Islamic empires. After they did this, he said that the deen, the system of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was reduced to a mazhab. So that everything became the aspect in relationship to learning the deen, but the whole aspect of practice became reduced to a mazhab. And his position was that he was reviving this. He was reviving the deen. So both myself and the Imam, we came back and we were charged up. And we began to establish that national policy that you have in front of you. And then the Imam, for the first time in years, he went out and he began to give the dawah back to, to the previous movements that he used to belong to. He began to invite Stokely Carmichael. He began to talk. He talked to Louis Farrakhan. I was trying to get him out of there that day because, I knew he was going to take a picture with him. But he took the picture and he gave him the dawah. I think Wesley Snipes was there. He filmed it. And then also you must understand that the Imam was doing something that was natural when you are going to establish your own system. You also establish what is called protection with that. So of course, that requires an arm. And so when we walked into the slick meeting, brothers was all dressed in black, and we had the the June the law patches and everything else. I mean, everybody that was there, they were amazed, man, because everybody was talking about the old days. Imam Jamil said the old days is not over. You know, we're ready to go for the next round. And he had the army to back it up. Even the brothers from the Nation of Islam came over to me. They said that, you know, what's that mean, brother? Junallah. I said, Junallah? I said, yeah. I said, oh, soldier of Allah. And they began to understand that this was the next phase of the movement. Now, I'm telling you this for a reason. Because the government was watching him. The government was watching him. For years, the Imam remained silent because he knew the government was watching. But see, when you got that warrior spirit, when you are a born struggler, sooner or later, you're going to give it up. You're going to stand up and you're going to do what you got to do, knowing the ramifications that's going to come down upon you. And that's what he began to do. And immediately when he did that, he was picked up on a bogus charge. Now, if you looked at that picture, Judas in the Black Messiah, under which you see him in the very beginning when he's given, you know, they open up with him talking. You begin to realize how the COINTEL movement works. They decided it was time to get him off the streets, that he was taking the most dangerous deen in the world. Islam is the most dangerous deen in the world. I mean, it's dangerous among women. When I talked about the revolutionary woman, some of you sisters need to look up Maryam Jamil. She's a Muslim woman. I think she was a Jewish woman, took Shahada, reverted back into Islam, and they had to lock her up in Pakistan. That's how dangerous she was. And so this dangerous deen was put in the hands of the ex-revolutionaries. And now you got Imam Jamil calling the ex-revolutionaries, the rest of the ex-revolutionaries, to the final chapter. From that position, they knew it was time to get him off the scene. He probably already followed us when we went overseas. He probably been following for a long time. And then it's understanding the concept of the COINTELPRO. And you know what? Unfortunately, most of us don't understand it. We don't understand it. It's very easy for Brother Felipe to understand that he got set up because he lived with the COINTELPRO. He lived dealing with that system every day. You know, the Young Lords, the Black Panthers, all of them were subjected to the COINTELPRO, particularly those who were targeted as the Black Messiahs. That was always their fear, the Black Messiah. Imam Jamil was at the top of the list. Why is it so hard for us to understand that when he began to go to stick and give the brothers and stick the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he was calling them to that deen, the most revolutionary deen on the planet? Why is it so hard to understand that he's now building an army? Why is it so hard for them to understand that we got to get this man off the street? And so therefore they hooked up the bogus situation, and you see that in the film that I just mentioned about the Judas and the Black Messiah. You see that one of the reasons why Freddie Hampton didn't like to ride in cars because of the bogus stops. And he was stopped. They had been monitoring. Then they put the charge on him. And I was with him right before the situation had jumped off and turned to the shooting. I went up to the Imam. I said, Imam, we can't afford to lose you like that. I said, why don't you do this? Why don't you turn yourself in? Do a couple of years, we'll hold the fort down for you till you come back. And he began to teach me something because I didn't understand what was going on. He said, when they take me back to jail again, he said, they ain't ever let me out. He understood that. He understands right now that he's not in jail for what he did. He's in jail for who he is. That's what we gotta understand. So when we talk about our Amir, you don't abandon the Amir on the battlefield. Could you imagine the Sahabas when the Prophet said he's on the battlefield and he gets caught and he's put in the prison system of the enemy? Could you imagine the companion said, "Oh well, the Prophet got caught, so it's time to move on, and we're gonna go out of the way." That's unheard of amongst the Sahabas. No, our Amir is in prison. So now it becomes our responsibility to do everything that we can to get him out. And it also becomes our responsibility to continue on with the propagation and the strategy that he established, that he laid his life on the line for. Because he may never get out of there. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that he does, but he may never get out of there. But when I talk to him, every time I talk to him, he makes it clear to me that he understands that if he dies in prison, then the martyrdom runs all through his blood. That's his position. It's not about him. He never calls to find out about him. He always calls to ask me, is the movement, is the struggle continuing? So that's the purpose of establishing the New Darul Islamic movement. That's the objectives, that's the goals. We've got to stop being in positions where our leadership is now getting so caught up there, we become entertainers, man. And I'm not talking about Umar, that's my man, One of the things that we do with Umar is we always bring him on because we want to make sure that we bring the balance. It's time to get serious, but we also want to have time to laugh a little bit. One of the beauty of Umar's jokes is that the Prophet ﷺ said that whenever he used to joke, he told the truth. So, if some of you younger brothers, particularly the ones that are Umar's age, know about the frustrations that you might have went through being raised under the Darul Islamic movement or being raised under the movement that followed the Darul Islamic movement, and you might be feeling some, animosity and stuff like that. Umar brings the different light to it. He can make you laugh. We can laugh at ourselves. We can begin to see it from a different perspective. But what we have to understand, what is more important in relationship to us moving forward as a people, is we have to begin to realize that the leadership cannot just be reduced to a bunch of entertainers. We're tired of entertaining people. Sometimes people think, you're supposed to come there, you're a leader, and now you got to talk for a couple of hours, and you got to entertain people, and then we become celebrities. We got to get out of all that aspect. There's work to be done, a lot of work to be done. And I personally don't think it can be done in my lifetime. So I got to lay down the foundation for these younger brothers. That's why it's called the New Darul Islamic movement. We got to bring in some fresh legs. We got to lay that foundation. We can't abandon our children like that. We can't leave them out there like that. So there's some corrections that we have to make. We have to learn from the past. We can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. But we got to get rid of the bathwater. So we got to make assessments. We got to look at ourselves. One of the things that we got to look at ourselves is that we were a bunch of brothers that had been given this pure deen, and we were rough, we were tough, we were mean, and sometimes we were too rough, we were too mean on ourselves. I got a young brother now who's getting ready to embrace the movement, the Darul Islamic movement, the New Darul Islamic movement. He just came home from prison. I'm very impressed with him. They opened up, him and a couple of brothers from the prison, opened up a Jamaat over in right outside of LA. He did a piece on the psychosis of the plantation. And the piece that he did amazed me. I had to call him up, I had to talk to him. I fell in love with him, he fell in love with me. We recognized like souls for like souls. But he talked about how systematically it has been designed to separate us. He talked about the changes that we go through as a people in terms of rejecting our elders. The generation gap, where we don't respect our elders. We don't respect those who laid the foundation down for us. He talked about the changes that we go through between the black man and the black woman, the struggle that goes on between us. He talked about all the aspects of the struggles that we go through, that we have problems with right now. And then he said that this was systematically done, that it was designed to create a situation where we hate ourselves. And that by doing that simultaneously, we would have a situation where he becomes the hero to rescue us from ourselves. And he went into the whole aspect. He went into the beautiful thing about what goes on in the household between the man and the woman. He talked about the welfare lines. How the man, gives the sister the welfare and then turns around and emasculates the man. This is why the economic empowerment is so important. I remember Imam Yahya once gave a football, and in the football, he talked about the same thing. He talked about, this is your woman. If she gets mad at you, she calls the police, he comes in, puts the handcuffs on you, locks you up, and you say this is your woman. But this young brother was breaking down that this is systematically done. That is done to such a way where she begins to look to him as the hero, as the rescuer, a rescuer from you. And he went into the whole, it's not just man and women, it's the whole aspect of what takes place between the young and the old, the man and the woman, the opposites that exist within our community that begin to go at one another, and we begin to look at one another, we begin to hate one another, and we start killing one another. All that's systematically designed. The deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in closing, was designed to overcome that. So that when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he came to Medina, as he came into Medina, he took tribes, warring tribes that hated one another, and he brought them together under a united brotherhood. He brought them together under what we call fikrah. Prior to that, they were into what we call fitrah. Fitrah is organic instinct, and that is, like back in the days, those brothers who remember being games, the only rules and regulations is that if you're not in my game, you're the enemy. Anything that you say, you're the enemy. Even if you're right, even if I did something wrong to you, you're wrong because you're the enemy. That's called fitrah. Fitrah is the concept of assessments, the concept of investigation, the concept that brings about law, that brings about the discipline of law, that establishes a position where you are ready to establish justice, even if it be against yourself. Even if it be against your mother, your father, your children, or whatever, you move from the level of fitrah to the level of fikrah. And by doing this, he was able to bring these warring tribes together. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says in the Quran, and you were enemies, and we joined your hearts with love. And never forget that you wanted to bring the pit of the hellfire, and I snatched you out. This is the deen that's been given to us. But it's about the work. I'm not up here to entertain you. I'm not up here to be a celebrity. This is not about, people trying to, kiss my hand or act like I'm the Pope or something like that. This is about work. That's like one of the reasons why when brothers are talking sometimes, I sit in the back. Because I want to make sure that the only thing that we're doing in terms of work is playing our roles. And I'm going to close out with that. Some of the problems that we had in the Darul Islamic movement, number one, was that we didn't recognize the values of our women. And our women have been there struggling with us from the very beginning. And we didn't understand that value. We didn't give the right to the woman the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded us to give to her. Remember that it was Khadijah that pulled him out of his state of trauma. Remember that he said about his daughter, he said that what hurts Fatima hurts me. He used to stand for his daughter when his daughter would come in. Why? Because she is known as the chief of all women in this world and in the hereafter. He recognized her rank of being superior, a superior being. And that the only difference between men and women are the roles that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us to play. Other than that, there is no difference. It's all about the roles. Once we begin to understand that and recognize that these women are our partners in struggle, these women are our partners in movement, they are on the front line with us. And so therefore we have to recognize them as partners. Then we erase this whole aspect of delusions that have been implemented upon us by the system in terms of black men fighting against black women. We erase that. Because again, as the young brother was saying, this is systematically done. And then the other aspect was, and I have a brother back there that was in the movement with us, and we were talking about this, we were talking about economics. Economic empowerment, we gotta have it. You can't have the sisters on welfare. You can't be independent of the system if you got your wife on welfare. And you can't be independent of the system if you're giving your soul to the company store. Yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded you to take care of your woman, to take care of your family. This is all part of movement. This is all part of the struggle. So that the only way we can do that is begin to create economic empowerment so that we begin to develop institutions that will make us independent of the company store. It will make us independent of a system that has been trying to destroy us since its inception. It's the only way we can do that. So that the economic empowerment becomes another aspect of ibadah, another aspect of worship. Opening up our businesses in the community, moving the housing in close proximities to the mosque, interacting with one another, interacting in the way that is defined in Kitab al-Buyut. All these things are important. Again, in closing, Sheikh once said that the Ottoman Empire was destroyed when it moved from Kitab al-Buyut, the book of business that was defined by Allah, His Messenger, alayhi wa salatu salam, and the Khulafa Rashidun, dealing with the gold and the silver, and also abandoning usury, when the ulama passed a fatwa allowing the Ottoman Empire to get themselves involved in that under the aspect of automation and becoming part of this modernization system, then that began the decline of the Ottoman Empire. And then by 1922, there was nothing left for them to survive. So it wasn't really a military fall as much as it was an economical fall. And the Sheikh went on to say that the beginning of restoration of the Khilafah is to begin to deal with the economic empowerment according to the way Allah and His Messenger alayhi wa salatu salam have given us. This deen is total. It covers every aspect. But we got to believe in it. We have to believe in the system. And then when we believe in the system, when we practice the system, then we have to take that system back out to the people in the streets. Because that's where we come from. How many of y'all remember Lou Rose? Wow, man.
It's me and you, how you know.
He made a record called Tobacco Road. And if we talked about Tobacco Road right now, they'd probably arrest me for being a terrorist. He said, I'm gonna get me some dynamite and a crane. And I'm gonna blow it up so I can build it back again. He talked about how he loved Tobacco Road, but he said it was dirty, it was filthy. So he talked about getting the dynamite and the crane to blow it, just, destroy it, bring it down. What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say in the Quran? Never will He change the condition of a people till they change that which is in themselves. It's our job to go into our communities and to begin to clean them up. It's our job to get rid of the drug dealers. It's our job to make sure that the people in the community are moving from the negativity into that which is positive. That's the weight and responsibility that's on us. Nobody else can do that. Those brothers that have immigrated over here, they don't understand the system well enough to be able to do that. And the people out there can't relate with them. They can't relate with them. No one was doing a joke about my walk. He's telling the truth. The first time I made Hajj, I was coming out of the Kaaba. And a brother was standing up, on top of one of those walls, and he was watching the brothers as they come out of the Kaaba. I mean, millions of brothers. I'm in Ikram. And he stopped me and he said, Assalamu alaikum. I said, wa alaikum salam. He said, you from New York? I said, yeah. He said, Alhamdulillah, where you from? He said, yeah, well, I'm from Brooklyn. Over here studying. And we started kicking it, talking about who knows who, and, so-and-so, yeah, Nostrand Avenue, going through the whole thing. My homeboy. So as I'm beginning to turn, I'm beginning to walk away, I stopped and I said, wait a minute. I said, how did you know I was from New York? I said, I could have been from Somalia, I could have been from the Sudan, I could have been from Ghana, I could have been from half a dozen places. How in the world could you have known that I was from New York? He said, look, don't nobody on this side of the planet walk like that. You're right. We're talking about historical experiences. I didn't know I was coming out of the planet, coming out of the top of, with my shoulder dip, just there with my hand. But that's me. And I tell you, ex-bishops, ex-chaplains, ex-jolly stompers, you are who you are. You can't be nobody else. And you don't have to be anybody else because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves you for who you are. Those brothers and sisters out there can't relate to anybody else but themselves. But when they look at you, when they see that walk, when they recognize that dip, or they recognize the movement, so they look at brothers and they say, hey, he's just like me. It opens up a door to them that says, well, if he can go through that door, maybe I can go through the same door too. Our mission is down. We're the only ones that can give it. We're the only ones that can relate with the people out there. And that's why it's so important that we put the train back on the track. So I hope I completed what Imam Jamil asked me to do, because that was his thing. He said, tell them about the Darul Islamic movement, Darul. And that's what this is all about. And that's what that policy is about. It's the most dangerous policy in the world. Because as Brother Felipe said, you're looking at a system that is going into decay. It's falling apart. It's in a state of fitna. You got people just breaking up into groups, hating one another. You're either Democrat or you're Republican. You're black, you're white, you're this, you're that. There's nothing there. There's no system. There's no law there. There is a chance and an opportunity for you to be able to give the display of the correct system. But first you have to believe in it, and then you have to implement it within yourself. And it begins with yourself. Because the whole aspect of Tawbah is the turning from disobedience to obedience. This is what we talk about when we say Allah will not change the condition of a people till they change that which is in themselves. You got to turn from disobedience to obedience. And once you do it as an individual, then those individuals come together and they make up families. And then those families come together and they make up communities. And those communities come together and they make up nations. And then once the nation is established, then you begin to look at the right system. And then you reflect upon what all the prophets have said. Even Isa alayhi salam said, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. We talk about divine rulership as established by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that has been so designated to Rasulullah alayhi salatu salam, and to the Khulafa Rashidun, and to those who follow them, and those who follow them to the last day. But we got to have the heart and we got to have the guts to be able to practice it and implement it in a society that looks upon us as being awkward. Why? Because we're revolutionaries. The way we dress, the way we walk, the way we move, the way we talk, the way we process information is all from a position that's in direct opposition to the society that we live in. Stop trying to change that. Assimilation is long gone for us. And that's the message. So I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I've said something that may have enlightened you. If I've done that, then know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that the knowledge and the wisdom is from Him. If I said something that to you that is an error, then know that I'm but a man. And I'm weak in the flesh, and therefore that weakness comes from me. But understand that it's time to do work, it's time for us to come together. As Sheikh Ali said to me, he said, man, we got to do more of this, man. We got to do more of this. We're laying down the foundation now. And then once we've established that foundation, once we've established our base, then we can begin to reach out to other groups, other races, and other people. But this time, it won't be about following their agenda. It will be about following the agenda that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has established for us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala strengthen us, and may He help us in our endeavor. And also, I want to thank everybody for coming out. This was important. Thank everybody for coming to the reality. You don't know how important that was to the Imam. He was vibed up. Called me up, saying, talking, jumping. Everybody know how the Imam be talking, young. When he used to play ball, he talked more trash than Michael Jordan. And then he counseled me and told me, he said, you better not get out there on that court. Too old to be getting out there on that court. But he was laughing, going back and forth, man, because he alhamdulillah, he knew that the work that he has struggled, the movement that he has struggled to keep moving, he knows now that movement, the life of that movement has not been put out. And that's very important to him that we had the reality. We have our mistakes, but each year we'll get better again, we begin to grow, we begin to develop. But the important thing is that we look at those mistakes, and then inshallah we sit down, we counsel with one another, and we make a commitment that we move on to improve the movement. To improve the movement. Because I'm looking at the leaders, I'm looking at the only solution. So again, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala strengthen us and help us in our endeavor. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa
barakatuh. Alhamdulillah. Excellent speech, much needed. We want to take this time to thank everybody for coming out, participating 2 days in. Alhamdulillah. If you want to get in contact to learn more about this Darul Islamic, new Darul Islamic movement, you can text or email Imam Isa.taha@gmail.com. Imam Isa.taha@gmail.com.
Spell it out.
Spell it out, he says. IMAMISA.taha, TAHA, Masjid, MASJID, @gmail.com. We'd like to thank Brother Naziruddin, Imam Ismail, Omar again. I can get a laugh too, man. Coming out there in Hollywood. That's a fun one. And our brother Felipe, absolutely takbir. And our Imam Isa Abdul Karim. We ask you all to journey safe, get home as we close out. A'udhu billahi min shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. We ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy upon Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. upon his companions, the righteous servants of Allah, all of them, and that he makes each and every one of us among the righteous. We ask that Allah bless our women and bless our men, bless our youth and our elderly. Bless the wayfarer, the orphan, the afflicted, those less fortunate, those who petition and ask. We ask that Allah bless those who have passed away before us, those who are with us, those who will come behind us. We ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make our last words our best words, and that is La ilaha illallah Muhammadan Rasulullah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك واشهد ان لا اله الا انت استغفرك واتوب اليك. اعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر ان الانسان لفي خسر الا الذين امنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. جزاكم الله خير. السلام عليكم ورحمه الله. Somebody's telephone.